war in Iraq is destroying the character of our youth. Dr. King says, fear is good. Fear is our friend. Abnormal fear, for example, snakes under the carpet, corrupt the personality, distort the mind, make us distrust our friends, see ugly as beautiful and beautiful as ugly. We even distrust ourselves. Normal fear is good. Running in front of a fast-moving car, it liberates, helps create, helps us focus, produce. War generates abnormal fears. We fear other people as if they were snakes under the carpet. Dr. King points out that the foundation of war is not hate, but fear. He says hate is rooted in fear. Is not fear one of the major causes of war? We say war is a consequence of hate. But close scrutiny reveals this sequence. First fear, then war, and finally deeper hatred. The war in Iraq produces abnormal fears on a daily basis. Dr. King also says, we are afraid of the superiority of other people and failure and end the scorn or disapproval of those whose opinions we most value. Envy, jealousy, a lack of confidence, a feeling of insecurity, and a haunting sense of inferiority are all rooted in fear. We do not envy people and then fear them. First we fear them, and subsequently we become jealous of them. The war in Iraq makes us fear people because of the color of their skin. We fear people because of their age. We fear people because of the language they speak. We fear people because of the people they hang with. We fear people because of what school they go to or what part of town they live in. We are afraid to get on an airplane with a bottle of water. Our parents are afraid to let us go outside at night. Teachers are afraid of students. Citizens are afraid of immigrants. All of this fear has increased since the war in Iraq started 4 years ago. Why has the murder rate in Oakland gone up? Because of the fear rate has gone up. The fear rate has gone up part because of the war and all the yelling and screaming and frightening things the government says and does to get us to support the war. We also suffer in other ways. The lack of honesty has increased. People say one thing and do another, even to their family and friends. Since the war in Iraq, we've all gotten cell phones and lots of us got iPods. So we are more connected than ever, but we communicate less and less. We talk more, but say less. The war teaches this because it has to cover up reality. It has to turn a cat into a dog. When you do that, it's called lying. And it is corroding the spirit of our nation today. The war in Iraq also has created a lot of violence at a time when we need at a time when we need love and compassion. Now is the time for talking through conflict, but the war in Iraq tells youth that the solution to problem is force. Tough talk and force is what young people practice every day that disrupts our schools and fills our jails. Should we not condemn tough talk and the use of force for those in power just like we do for our youth? Thank you very much.
Raquel and Edward Martinez must be extremely proud of Stephanie. And Stephanie, you make us proud. Betty Kano is a painter, teacher, curator, community and peace activist. She's a mother. Betty's paintings have been exhibited nationally as well as internationally. She is a lecturer, and she's lectured at the San Francisco State University as well as New College of California. In addition to her work as an artist and teacher, Betty is co-founder of Art Against Apartheid, Asian American Women Artists Association and Women of Color Camp, and is a recipient of Sisters of Fire Award by the Women of Color Resource Center. Betty is here today and has been actively supporting Lieutenant Aaron Watada. She's been doing this since June 27, 2006, helping to organize events and mobilizing with the help of the Asian Pacific Islanders Resist to attend Watada's court-martial hearing February the 5th at Fort Lewis, Washington. I present to you a longtime resident of this community, an activist, Betty Kano.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about Lieutenant Aaron Watada, who is the first commissioned officer to refuse deployment to Iraq. His story is very, very inspirational, and he is an amazing person, young person who has learned from his experience and analyzed himself in order to communicate what he has learned. I was able to hear an interview that he gave just recently to Peter Swing, who is a young veteran and student at UC Berkeley. And in that interview, Aaron Watada revealed some of the things that has formed him. One of them was an anecdote about high school in Hawaii, where he was in a small public high school that had the worst football track record, sports record on the island. He was able to play, even though he was smaller at that time, 5'7" and 150 pounds. And that experience of being on the losing his football team was pretty galvanizing, he said. They had a record of 1-5 or something like that. And he'd be playing, the score would be 40-0, and he'd be being rushed by these big guys. And he still persevered. That season, they had the best record that they had, 3 wins and 3 losses, and the school was very happy. And he learned what it felt like to be on the losing portion, arrayed against all these other forces. And I imagine that that's what Congresswoman Barbara Lee has also experienced in her stand in Congress. And that's a positive experience to go through, to learn that one can be calm in that and grow through that and not be pushed back because of that. Another lesson he learned was in Korea, which was a stressful assignment. Apparently in Korea, they have to be on 24/7. There's always a possibility of having to answer the call. And his corporal in Korea was very instrumental in helping to form his ideas of what it meant to be an officer and his responsibilities as an officer, in contrast to the kinds of responsibilities of a soldier to obey all the orders. As an officer, he had an obligation to lead his soldiers and to instruct them and instill in them the courage and confidence that they needed to be real leaders for their men. That corporal helped to form his Lieutenant Aaron Watada's consciousness as an officer who would take a stand about the war in Iraq. The epiphany for Lieutenant Aaron Watada was reading James Bamford's A Pretext for War, 9/11, Iraq, and the Abuse of America's Intelligence Agencies, that he found in the Fort Lewis Library. That book outlined, it was written by James Bamford, decades of intelligence journalism, a journalist, He detailed all of the intelligence issues arising from before 9/11 to afterwards, and also the terrible situation in the intelligence, the highest levels of intelligence of this government, the CIA and the Department of Homeland Security, etc. And one of the things that James Bamford does call for in his book, which I think is